What we have is we have an increase in daylight. Again, a big spike starting on the 12th of November. I would say if you had to sit all day, I'd probably go 16 through 22. The mature buck activity peaked there in those dates we talked about. There's your best 7 days of the rut, in my opinion, for sitting all day. You got really good stuff ahead of you, and you got some great weather and some great dates. So if you're on a buck or you have a spot and you want to get into it, that's when you need to put the seed time in. If you're going to track and try to run one down, have at it. I just think it's a really difficult time frame to do that. When I've tracked him in this time frame, I feel like you get one that is covering ground, and that's the easiest one to cut his track because he's laid 8 miles of his track around. And when you follow him, he brings you by like 7 different pinch points. You know, like obvious spot, like you went over a saddle, like right over the saddle. Oh, we pinched between, you know, the edge of a really steep drop off and a cut. You know, oh, we ran around the end of the beaver pond across the dam. It's like the most obvious spots where it's like, man, if I just picked a funnel or a pinch point during the day and just sat there, would have killed that buck. I would have killed him in 4 different spots. Like,
welcome to the Just Hunt podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Just Hunt podcast, episode 37. And we've been busy, but we're back for a hot one because it's due. And lots of good stuff going on, really. Lots of stuff developing, and I think it's a critical time of year to get everything dialed in, and it's going to get good here real quick. When is this coming out?
What's today, the 9th? So it'll probably come out on Tuesday,
which is super timely and good.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. So it's the 9th of November, and I've been hunting a lot this week. It's been a pretty slow week, I'd say, in general.
Yeah, how many sets did you do this?
5.
Yeah.
Or 4. I think today was supposed to be 5, but didn't pan out. So we sat the day out because it was raining, and camera gear and rain doesn't work. We were literally like at the spot waiting to go in, and it just was like, this isn't going to happen.
Alarm went off at 2 this morning.
It was an early
morning. Drove to Brett's
morning.
house and then drove another
hour,
long
whatever.
ways.
So we're going to do a hanging hunt, and in the spot because we have east winds today and tomorrow, and I've been hunting a west wind spot. I couldn't get in there, so we're going to try a different spot. But anyway, it's been slow. It was good, and I'll kind of get to why I'm talking about this in a second. I've got a little bit updated information I want to talk about quick. We won't go into like super detail, but just how it's relevant to like now and then the next couple weeks. We had a flurry of activity, really honestly on trail cameras. Hunted a little bit, but didn't actually see any of these bucks. But I know I was within 70 yards. The big one I'm after would have been last Sunday, I believe. A week ago. Yeah, a week from today. So we had some good daylight, like the, Halloween time frame through like the 3rd. And I kind of jumped in the stand when I saw that. I was like, all right, it's time to go. But then it kind of tapered off. And there's some movement, and I'm sure people are killing bucks, and like there's some hot does out there. So don't take this as like you're not going to see deer and it's not worth being in the woods. It is. But there definitely seems like there's a little bit of a lull. We got rain and this low pressure system that's here now. It's going to be here Sunday and the Monday, so that's, I guess, the 9th and the 10th. And then Tuesday, the temperature is just dropping. I think it's like a high of I don't know, I think it was like 30. Let's take a look quick. 30. High of 30. Well, it depends where you're at, of course, but.
As a high?
High of 30. So lows in the low 20s. And that's, probably in town. So where we're hunting, it's probably even colder. So I really think with the dates the way that they are, I think we're going to pull out of this little lull, pull out of the low pressure. It's going to get really cold. The pressure is going to start to slowly rise. And I really think this next week it's going to get really good. Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, if you look at the forecast, I'll show it to you, Matt, and you can see it. But so we're looking at essentially tomorrow is going to be almost 50, which isn't honestly that warm at all, but it's not cold. We getting like, rain. We'll would that turn to snow? No, it's not going to turn to snow. It's getting cold after the front blows out. But if sometimes in the mountains there's snow where it calls for rain. So we got the highs this next Tuesday on. We'll say the 11th through the 18th. We have 31, 37, 41, 38, 37, 38, 38, 38. And the lows are all in the 20s. Mid to low 20s. Well, mid to low 20s. So that is phenomenal rut hunting weather. It's going to get really good, I think. I think it's worth being in the woods. As far as all day sits, I mean, I may start them as early as Friday. I don't think I'll do it before then, but it looks really good. It also looks like we're getting some snow on the 17th, potentially the 18th, that time frame. So a week from tomorrow, of course, that could change a lot. It's ways out there. If you're a tracker, you're probably going to track. I will say, though, they are covering an awful lot of ground on the 17th and 18th of November, unless they get with the doe. If you catch them with a doe, yeah, they may not go anywhere. But but the chances of cutting a track on a buck that's holed up with a doe are not great because they're not going anywhere. But if you do, you'll probably kill them real quick. But the better chance is you're going to cut a track of a buck that's going miles and miles, because those are the dates that they're going miles and miles and miles. And so I choose not to track even when we have snow during that period, because I just don't think most of the time I don't think you can catch up with them. And you're going to get into does, it's just going to be a tough time to track. So I sit, and I think those are some of the best days to sit. So really, I'd say really Tuesday on is going to be good. If you have a few days, you had to blow your vacation, I would go probably Friday through Monday, long weekend, 14, 15, 16, 17 with those dates. That's killer. If you have longer, maybe I'd go Friday through that next week or Saturday, whatever. That stretch right there is awesome. And I'll talk a little bit about why those dates I think are going to be good. I think that, so I guess I did a study, and I'm not going to go into the extreme details of the study and talk about it, but I did a study, it was probably 7 years ago now.
Yeah, we had talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit.
When we had Steve Shirk on.
Yep. And I think I had about 100 data points there, and that was basically, the focus was to find out when it made sense to sit all day during the rut. That was the main objective. Because I was talking to someone else. Contrary to popular belief, I do not like to sit all day. I actually don't enjoy it. I don't want to sit all day, but I will and I do if need be. So I want to make sure that if I'm sitting all day, I'm it's maximum best time to do it, or I'm not going to do it. So I did a study focused on that. When are bucks, big mature bucks, moving mature for the study and for the updated studies, 4.5 or older? When are they moving mid-morning to mid-afternoon type? What are the dates? And so the conclusion was that peak activity was around the 19th of November, which it's still, I see that, still is the case. But what I did this time was I have 7 more years of data. So that was 300 data points. So it's 3 times more statistically significant than the first study. However, a lot of the same stuff is mirrored. So I think we're on the right track with the first one. I did it. I compiled. Go ahead. Yeah.
Did you combine them together, or did you have them separate?
I combined them together. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Actually, I take that back. No, I didn't. The previous study I had used 4 people's data, including myself. This one I just used myself and Ross's data. We had enough there that I didn't go back. So I used the subset of data that we had contributed the first time, but I didn't use other people's, and then we used the additional data we have from the last 6 or 7 years. So it was about 300 data points. So the majority of it was from New Hampshire, a little bit from northern, Mass, I'll say, bigger woods in Mass. I didn't use any data from Maine because I would love to run the same study independently and see if it's the same results. If I had the same results, I'd feel comfortable combining them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel comfortable enough right now that I wanted to muddy the waters with some timing that may be slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't use Adirondack data as well, which I have a fair amount. Maine and Adirondacks as well. I left those out. I would bet, from what I've seen, that it's the same, if very similar, if not the same. So I think you can kind of use this if you're in like the Northeast, I'll say. Once you start to get into like southern New England, like Rhode Island, Connecticut, down to Western New York and to PA, I don't think this is relevant. I don't think it's super useful. I think this is a northeast timing thing. So Adirondacks, Vermont, New Hampshire, Mass, in Maine is what my guess would be. Once again, I don't have all the data from all those places, but if you think about like New Hampshire, it's pretty centralized in northern New England. Like it's really literally right in the center. So big wood setting too. I don't really think that makes a whole lot of difference, to be honest with you. Maybe a little bit, but anyway. So I did that 3 different ways this time. I did peak daylight activity period. I did peak midday activity, and then I did peak time of the day.
Yeah, and we can put all those. I can put all
yeah,
those,
we
those
can get it all together. We'll probably do another pod and go in depth. But what I basically want to say, there was a peak that happened last weekend. It was basically from the 30th through the 3rd. Okay, so 5 days. October 30th through November 3rd. I saw this last year. I see it this year. I guess I see it every year. I've always kind of ignored it. But when I put everything together, I was like, oh, this is like significant. It's a significant peak. It's not a peak necessarily of midday activity, all-day activity. There is more than the days previous and after, but it's not a very significant peak. And I can show you there. So that's what I'm talking about for daylight activity. This is midday compared to these dates, way more significant. So if you missed that, that's fine. I hunted like 2 days of it. I should have hunted all 5. I started hunting right after it ended, and I've had some slow hunting from essentially the 5th through yesterday, today, tomorrow. But what we have is an increase in daylight, again, a big spike starting on the 12th of November. And that spike is probably going to run through the 22nd of November. So then 10 days, 12th to 22nd, I think are probably your best bet in general. Now, after that, midday activity peaks probably around, like I said, November 19th. There's a couple days on either side. They're good. But I would say if you had to sit all day, I would pick probably 15 through 22. How many days is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. So if we had to pick 7, I'd probably go 16 through 22. 7 days. There's your best 7 days of the rut, in my opinion, for sitting all day.
For midday.
For midday
activity.
Yeah, I'd say probably the front half. I'd say honestly in general, I would say those are the best days. You're going to see the biggest deer probably on their feet.
Yeah. What time did you do for midday? What was I'll
tell you why I characterize midday. Let me just show you right now. So I did mature buck daylight activity by hour. So essentially there's 11 hours in the day in November. This is for November, actually October 25th to December 5th, so the rut. So the single most active hour for mature bucks was the last hour of daylight. However, the 6 hours preceding the last hour, so essentially from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. were the slowest 6 hours of the day. Behind the last hour, the first 4 hours of the day, all were 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is for all of November. Now what we see though, so what I did was I characterized midday would be the hours that the deer are moving the least in general. So I did 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That window where you're sitting all day, which is 6 hours of your day, that the mature buck activity peaked there in those dates we talked about. So like 16 through 22, we'll say. So that's when it makes the most sense. So that distribution of daylight started high in the morning. It kind of tapers off to 10, stays really steady, and then it spikes the last hour. But what you're seeing in those all-day days, the 16 through 22, you're still seeing it, the high in the morning. It tapers down, but it doesn't come down quite as much. Kind of stays high throughout and then spikes again. So that's kind of why I think you're basically maximizing your time by sitting all day in your opportunity, I think. So you got that period ahead of you. I think if you have the time, be in the woods absolutely the 11th or 12th this week and through like the 22nd. And I will tell you, if you don't have time until a little bit later, it looks like from the study, the 23rd, 24th, really like through the end of the month, even December 1st had like a spike of movement almost. That was, well, to be honest, it was the fourth best day for midday activity of the whole rut. It was December 1st. So that's pretty interesting.
I'm trying to go back and find a picture from 2 years ago. I think it's December 3rd.
Yeah, so basically it tapers off slowly from the 22nd. All movement, midday and daylight. It slowly tapers, but honestly it stays high. Like the last week in December is better than the week that we just ended right now for activity, which is like the 4th through the 10th. So that's something to keep in mind. So anyway, this is why I think, what's that one?
That's from December 3rd.
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
3 in the afternoon, which I would characterize that as midday based on what I've seen. Anyway, so you got really good stuff ahead of you, and you got some great weather and some great dates. So if you're on a buck or you have a spot and you want to get into it, that's when you need to put the seed time in. If you're going to track and try to run one down, have at it. I just think it's a really difficult time frame to do that. When I've tracked them in this time frame, I feel like you get one that is covering ground, and that's the easiest one to cut his track because he laid 8 miles of his track around, so it's easy to find it. And when you follow him, he brings you by like 7 different pinch points. So you're like, oh, like obvious spot, like you went over a saddle, like right over the saddle. Oh, we pinched between, the edge of a really steep drop off and a cut. We ran around the end of the beaver pond across the dam. It's like the most obvious spots where it's like, man, if I just picked a funnel or a pinch point during the day and just sat there, would have killed that buck. I would have killed him in 4 different spots, like really obvious spots. So I think that's a more effective strategy. But if you want to track, and there's plenty of guys that want to just track, then have at it, and maybe you'll find the one that runs into a doe and you kill him. So
I feel like that's one of the most efficient ways to scout for that time frame.
100%.
If you can get a day with snow,
100%,
and they're running, just go follow it and see where it takes you.
I killed the buck in that buck in it was the last one I killed with the rut during the bow, the rut with a bow in New Hampshire, I should say. But yeah, same thing. He bought me right across a beaver dam, and it was like light bulb went off, and I just looked at that beaver dam like, oh my God, that's in the middle of everything. And I sat there and killed him. It was like the first sit. I caught him cruising back through. So that's a super effective way to find those spots too. That's a good point, Matt, is if maybe you burn a day just to learn. If you don't already know where they're going, like that's a great way to find all the best spots, is find one of those bucks that's just, he's going beeline and doe to doe to doe, and then you're going to track yourself, use your tracker, and then some of those spots, when you look at the map, you're like, oh, that's an obvious funnel. Like, I know I went by there. And those are some of the best places to sit.
Yeah, because I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but when I go to a new area, I tend to go like overly slow, and then I like have an objective for the day. I'm like, okay, I want to cover this much area, and then the day's almost gone, and I've only covered a fraction of what I want to. Just trying not to overlook things and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the tracking, that's a good point. So if you don't have the spot, then maybe you track that buck and you learn, or you track a buck. So it's coming up. I think long hours in the stand are coming. I think I'm going to hunt mornings until probably Friday. I'm going to hunt until 10 a.m. Those seem to be the best odds and what I can pull off. And then Friday, it's like, rutcation or rut camp. And
and we're going to start, and I'm going to probably hunt that next 8 days all day or until I kill. So, yeah, this will be probably the November where I've spent the most amount of hours in the tree in New Hampshire, which will be cool.
Which I think is kind of funny because before the season leading up to it, you're like,
I know.
Yeah. Priorities have changed a little bit. I think I'm going to take it a little easy. And then
then
that deer showed up, and then you've just been off the rails since then.
Yeah, it's been fun. I haven't been. And it's I just haven't had a deer in the last, since really like 22. Yeah, since 22. And to be honest, in 22, I really wasn't in the game with that deer. I was sick the whole month of November. I remember. I felt like I don't think I might have COVID or something. And then that deer that I was after was like not really around that much. So like half was in the game. So really 21 was the last time I was like really in it with a buck. And I feel like I'm in it with another one now. It's like fun. I've had a nice break though. Like it's been nice not to be in it every year. It's like mentally draining, and like it's difficult to do that year after year. But yeah, and the cool thing is that like there's a couple other bucks in there too that I'd be really happy to shoot as well. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited about the prospect for this. I mean, the weather looks great. The dates are great. Like everything's lining up. I think it'll be good for those guys that still have a tag, which I'm sure a lot do. Yeah, it's like go time pretty much. So yeah, do you have any questions or any thoughts on that?
One thing we had talked about this morning was just that I remember last year you and Ross were kind of saying that, just talking about how things will change in like a particular area in terms of just like the deer herd or age structure, just like overall
ladybug
bug flying around here, or just like not having a buck that you necessarily want to hunt, and how stuff kind of ebbs and flows with that. But then all of a sudden this year it was like,
I
got
think
like 5 deer you're saying that
are big,
and you'd be more than happy to kill. So I guess, what do you think? Like, you can speculate on contributing factors to that, but do you think that's just a coincidence, or do you think there's more to it than that?
I don't think. Part of it's kind of cyclical. So like some age classes in areas are like stacked and some are like thin. We'll start with that. Like Lefty, killed him last year. He was 7.5. He was like by far the oldest buck in that whole area that I was hunting last year. And there was an age class below him that was mostly like 4-year-olds, to be honest. It was like a lot of 4-year-olds. Like that's what it was like.
All the ones that
think
were
that deer
fighting
might
each other
be 4.
and getting
right. Well,
busted
that's
up.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was like a ton of 4-year-olds. And they all were like, you're right. He was busted up. They're all busted up. And I was like, what's going on? It was like a bunch of 18-year-old dudes like just smashing on each other in there. And it was just like, holy crap. And like by the end of the season, we went in that late season hunt. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
There was like,
it was cold.
6 or 7 solid bucks using that area. It was like, holy crap. It was just stacked. But they all were like 1 or 2 had like good potential, were good deer. But that was kind of like it. Like one of them in particular, and then another one had like, he was like a 4-year-old, and there was one 5-year-old. And so he grew a lot, went into 6, and he's there. And then like all of the 4-year-olds like blew up, like all of them. I think we have in that pocket 1. And even so, and then not only that, but then there's another spot that we do get some crossover, and there's like an 8-year-old in there, and he blew up. He's as big as he's ever been. And then we had, I think, 3 4-year-olds in there as well. And they're all back, and they're like, they blew up. So like, there's like, this is a different it's within a few miles, but it's a different general area. But like, it's stacked with 4 solid bucks in there. And then this area, it's like crazy. I just think that New Hampshire, so I think that in that general area, across that region, or I wouldn't say region, but there was a lot of like middle-aged bucks last year. there wasn't a lot of young deer and there wasn't a lot of old deer. And now that middle age is kind of getting into like peak maturity, like 5 years old. And as that happened, we seem to have had an exceptional antler growing year. So all those 4-year-olds like expressed what they could be at 5 fast. And it's like really impressive. So I think that's what happened. The weird thing is I'm not seeing a whole lot of younger deer. I think I got a couple, maybe 3 or 4 4-year-olds I know of in general, or 2 or 3 or something like that. And then like a couple, maybe like a couple 2-year-olds. I'm like seeing like hardly any year and a half, which is like strange. Like you would think it would be like more evenly distributed towards the younger deer, but for whatever reason, it isn't. And there's no real old deer either.
Yeah.
That I know of. There's like the one that's like I know is like 8. And then other than that, there's like a 6-year-old. And that's pretty old, but it's not like Lefty was 7 and Strawman was 8 and, you know, that buck Maple 8 was 8 and I don't know how that deer was, but like you see what I'm saying? Like it's pretty common to have a couple 7, 8-year-olds. We don't really have that this year. We have maybe one. So it's interesting. It just seems like that age class, for whatever reason, that, you know, they were freshmen and then sophomore and then juniors and now they're seniors and it's like, you know, the football team that wins a state tournament because were a stacked freshman class. They came up together. It seems like that's what's going on. So why is that? I don't know exactly. I mean, maybe there was a poor, you know, fawning year or after a great one, and that's why there's a bunch of 5-year-olds this year and not many. I don't know. It's tough to say. I really don't know. Biologically why that happened, but I can tell you it seemed to be an excellent growing year, backed up to just a stacked age class. And to be honest, like, I don't know. I think to myself, are these deer going to be, I mean, I'm not going to really pass any of them, I don't think, at 5, but if I did, what would they be at 6? Are they going to be even bigger, or do they express most of their potential with this really good antler growing year and make these big jumps, and maybe they're just going to be just the same at 6 or a couple inches bigger, or maybe worse.
Yeah, if it's
so
like
it's right.
Hard winter.
Right.
And
yeah,
it
could be worse. Legitimate.
Like yeah.
Could be worse. So I really don't know. I'm of the mindset at this point. It's like, particularly in the big woods, and even honestly, my farms in New York, like once they get to 5, and they're like that's a good deer. Like I'm gonna hunt them and shoot them if I see them. Maybe if a 5-year-old comes by that I'm not like super pumped about, like, maybe I'll let him go. But in general, I think you start hunting them at 5 because most of the time you just don't kill them, right? Like it takes like years of hunting these damn things to actually kill one. So like,
yes,
you
got to start at 5.
Start at 5 and hope you kill them by the time they're dead of old age.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like sometimes it literally takes 4 or 5 years and then you don't get them.
Yeah.
Either someone else kills them or they die or whatever happens to them, right? So I say start hunting them at 5. I mean, that deer right there, that big 8 was a 5-year-old. Like that's a giant deer, and he was like that at 5. And would he have been 160-inch 8 at 6 or 7? I don't know, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe I have no idea. So.
Yeah, well, you should get to see how it plays out because they're not all going to die this year.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think they'll all die. Some will definitely get killed. I mean,
yeah.
They get picked off every once in a while. You see them, people, you know, kill them and they roam, and you know we kill some of them obviously. But yeah, it's a stacked year. And honestly, like if they don't die, next year looks awesome too. But it's going to be weird after that age class starts to die. You know, like, and we see that. We had a really good wave back in the like the straw man days. We had like a handful of really good bucks. And then like then you'll have another spot will turn on, you know, another area will turn on with the good bucks. But seems like this year we got 2 spots that are stacked, and then I got a third spot that I have in mind that has a deer that's like a superstar 3-year-old. I hope he's still alive. I don't know. He'll be a buck that like next year I'll really start to monitor see if he's alive still. But you know, just a freak. Like could be a Boone and Crockett class deer by 5 or 6, maybe even 4 or 5 by his look. So it's just all comes in waves, and you gotta like keep your finger on it. And like sometimes there's an area that's like, hey, it's gonna do 2 or 3 years before there's anything really. It's good, right? And so you kind of shift, and it's like, well, okay, this is good this year, but it seems like this year we have 2 areas that are peaking. So, yeah, it should be interesting. I don't know if people – I would like to hear, too, if you guys think that in New England, particularly I'll say New Hampshire, if it was a really good antler growing year. It seems like it has been. I've heard of and seen some giants, like giant deer this year. Not all of them are like dead, and not all of them that are dead have been shared. And I've been seeing some freaking really big deer this year, like Boone and Crockett class bucks in New Hampshire, and not like 1 or 2, like a handful of them. So
I saw one that got killed this morning that looked a lot like that deer.
Did you?
That was in the same block of woods that I hunt.
Really?
Yeah, I was able to stalk the guy and figure it out. And I posted a video from his blind. I was like, yeah, I saw that blind while I was scouting last week.
He got him, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's about to be really good. Regardless of where you're at in your deer herd in the area you hunt, like I still think it's worth being out there. Oh, the other thing I'll say is that 12th through the end of the season, that's when you get those random giants to show up too, which I never believed in that. And I was like, yeah, I think people just don't know about them. I think they've always kind of been there. But I can tell you that I got a couple areas that we've been monitoring with cameras for a long time, and we got them pretty well covered. I'm not saying we got everything. We don't. They're just a little box in the woods facing one direction. But we have them on the main scrapes. We have them on the highways. Like we have them. We have a pretty good system of getting inventory. And I'm not saying we have like 100 cameras. That's not what I'm saying. We have a fair amount of them, but they're in really good locations. They're dialed. And the last 3 years, we've had deer just show up mid-November to the end of November. That's like, what the hell is that thing?
No
like,
idea where they
big
came from.
freaking deer, dude. Like big deer. So that's the time. That's the, I guess, added bonus of hunting and putting your time in that time of year is you literally never know what the heck's going to walk by you. And I had that happen when I killed that one. I didn't recognize it, but I had this giant buck walk by. And I just saw him for a second. So, like, my brain was like, what is that? That looked huge. But I was like, I don't know any buck that's like that. And I'm like, well, maybe it's this other buck that I know of. Has a similar rack. Maybe I just, like, grossly overestimated him. And then, of course, like 6 hours later, I got that deer's picture in there. I'm, oh, my God, that was him. Freaking giant. So that's another added bonus of this time of year is you can have one show up out of nowhere. So it's like you're never really out of the game. And I guess the other thing I'll say is when you are in the woods and you're not seeing anything for like 2 or 3 days, that doesn't mean you're in the wrong spot. The rut is like, it happens in 2 different ways. It happens in a pod of deer on a hot doe. And the goal of that buck with that hot doe, the most mature one, the most dominant there, is to keep all the other bucks away and keep her corralled. He doesn't want her going anywhere. He wants to keep her in a small area. He wants a breeder. But he doesn't want, and he wants to fight off all the bucks that are trying to get in on him. So that could literally happen in 5 acres. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing for like 2 days can be in 5 acres. And if you're 300 yards away, you don't even know it exists. You know, like you don't even know what's going on. But you're right there. But the second that buck breaks loose and he's done with her, he's going to cover a bunch of distance quick. And that's where you want to capitalize, is be in that spot where he's going to cruise through. So that's how you're going to encounter him most likely. And so you never know when that day is that he lost his doe, and they will literally go 10 miles in daylight. And they'll go through all, like I said, when you track them, they hit all the scrapes, and they go through all the pinch. It's like, oh my God, he like went through every major area in this whole like mountain range in daylight today. So that's the day you need to be there. And you may have 5 days of nothing until you get that day where it's like, boom, there he is. There he is, 10 o'clock in the morning, just boom, here he comes. So you're never out of it if you're in one of these good pinch points. That's something to keep in mind. And if you just happen to luck into the breeding buck rut frenzy, then freaking awesome. You're about to go for a ride. But I don't know if you can like necessarily predict how and when that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Or where it's going to happen. You just hopefully get lucky. So that's what I'll say. I mean, I would say you want to have good information. Don't sit anywhere in the woods and like think that you're just gonna get lucky because it's the rut. You need to have the information and like the scouting, and maybe you'll have tracked one of those bucks through this area in the past, or you have trail camera data to back it up. There's cruising bucks in there, so or maybe there's a giant scrape that's super active and it historically is active. Those are great spots. But if you're on one of those spots, don't feel like you're not in the game. You're in the game, 100%. If it's second half of November in the Northeast, you're in the game if you're on one of these good spots.
With the amount of time you're putting in, the amount of sits in the woods right now, what's like your strategy going about it? So just balancing, like are you worried about putting pressure on certain spots?
Yeah.
You bouncing around? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm trying to – that's a good question. Since I've been putting so much time in, I've been thinking a lot about that. I've typically done 7 to 10 days in an area, max, if it takes that long. But it could be up to 7 or 10 days, we'll say. I know Ross and I have killed on day 7 and day 8, like in the past. So like we've been able to maintain the integrity of that area to kill a buck a week after sitting it every day. Okay, so like it can be done. Now I have my doubts that we could do it for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. That's a long time. So I've seen different areas turn on at different stages of the rut. And so my strategy right now is to put 3 to 5 days in on these spots that historically during these dates have been good. And then when we get to the peak, which will be this weekend, like Saturday the 16th. Does that make sense? 15th. Yeah, Saturday the 15th, it's like, okay, pick the hill to die on and then spend the very best of it on that hill. And so I haven't picked it yet. And I may hunt 2 more spots yet, like in the next, how many days do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 days. So that's almost 2 weeks. So I may do like 5 and then, like 8 or something like that. But if you can get it, if you believe, you're in the spot, like there's one spot and that's a spot and you know it and like it's an obvious spot and you have really good access. Maybe it's like water access with a canoe or something in the backside of a lake or a pond and you're just like up in the stand and you're good. You probably do that for 2 weeks and be good. Or if you, whatever, even there's other options with really good access. The one thing I'll tell you is you rarely get the same wind for that long. And that's what pushed us out of the woods, out of the spot I was in this week and into a different, where we didn't end up going, but we were there, is we had an east wind. And like so one thing with that spot is I need a westerly there. I just can't do I can't do easterlies, just the way it sets up, which is a negative. That's a flaw in that spot, right? But I do have east wind spots, and so I think it's just kind of like if you can find the spot that you can get away with different winds, man, that's really good. You can really be there when you need to. So that's kind of the strategy. Look at the historical data. Maybe if it's the same spot the whole month, then you just go there and you make it work. Try to find a wind and set up maybe 2 different stands, or if you're on the ground, 2 different spots. I'm trying to bow hunt, so I probably need to set up stands. But if you're, gun hunting, you could just go sit on the ground for a day, with a different wind. And the other thing I said before, like you don't need to sit overlooking your camera, right? Those bucks are moving, and there's a long line of movement. If there's a spot 300 yards up on that same movement, or 200 or 100 yards where you can make an east work, do that. I mean, it's probably going to, like I said, these bucks, when they're doing it, you'll see them. It'll be like ding, 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 ding. They're hitting all these spots right in a row. So if you can hunt one close by that is capitalizing the same movement pattern, then that's great too. You're not going to miss him. Well, you could, but, chances are if he's doing it and his travel, you're not going to miss it.
Mm-hmm.
Get sleep. Get sleep. Make sure you eat. Make sure you hydrate.
Yeah, spend time with your family when you can.
Yes, yep, absolutely. So that's my RUT report and my suggestions. I'm excited about it. I'm pumped up. should be good here coming up. The weather's just like killer. So one thing that it's a wild card, and damn, it looks good. I'm excited. It's just, people don't want to sit in the cold, but like, man, if it's cold, the better your chances are they're going to move throughout the day, right? It's not going to shut them down. Like when you're looking at a high of 40 over the next 10 days, that's the warmest it's going to be is 40 degrees. And the most of highs are in the 30s. They're just not going to stop. It's going to be good. Mm-hmm. So I'm pumped. Woo, it's going to be good. All right. I think we'll wrap this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it's useful. It's going to come out super timely. So hopefully you can apply it to like what's going on right now. I don't think we'll focus on like timely ones, but I think this is like the most timely one and the most critical information that I would like to give to people that are interested in it, because I think this could be the key to success for sure for a lot of people. It's going to be good. So good luck, guys. Get in the woods. Stay glued to that seat if you are so inclined, and kill the biggest buck of your life. We'll see you on the next one.